There's a lot we can learn from Gambit, from X-Men 97 in particular, as far as being a man and also dealing with not only rejection but also a breakup. So it's pretty obvious that when you read X-Men and you watch like the earlier cartoons and the earlier animation, that Gambit is absolutely infatuated with Rogue, right? I can't necessarily tell if it's the simple fact he can't have her because she can't be touched. But you learn over time that he has genuine feelings for her. He loves her. And even if it's never confirmed to him, if Rogue never says point blank, we are boyfriend and girlfriend, we are partners, we are in a committed relationship, in his mind, he is committed to her. And honestly, it's a very beautiful thing to see, especially nowadays, the fact that he was just 100% in love with her, without question. There were a multitude of reasons why they could never work. Can't touch her without having his power sapped and his life force drained. They're constantly being hunted by sentinels. They're constantly being put under the pressure of the media, of the United States government. They were literally being hunted. And he still loves her. He give up anything for her, and it's a very beautiful thing to see. And that's why when I started watching X-Men 97, and you start seeing that they were actually going to go down the route of Magneto and Rogue, because again that happens in the comics, which I was never a fan of. I really was never a fan. I don't like massive age gaps like that. It's different when a character is like an immortal. It's different when a character is like meant to be thousands of years old and he comes across somebody. Or her come across somebody, because I think, okay, well then you're spending the rest of your life alone, and that's not fair. But when it came to Magneto and Rogue, I was like, oh, that's a bit of a problematic one. But I'm not the police here. I can't say who's allowed to get with who. They're both consenting adults. Get on with it. In that first shot where we see Rogue leave the room, Gambit almost immediately knows. He knows what's going on. He may not know the full details, but he knows that the woman that he loves is keeping something from him. Now, what does he do? I know many of us, I've been guilty of this in the past, would confront, would get angry, would want to fight, would want to get in a fight with Magneto in that situation because he's the other guy, he's the one tempting his girl. He doesn't. He knows his lane. He stays in it. He waits for her to come to him to explain the situation, even though he knows full well something's going on. He doesn't trust Magneto for not just the fact that he's flirting with the love of his life, but also the fact that he's Magneto. He doesn't trust him for that reason, point blank. Or doesn't allow himself to get so caught up in his own feelings, his own like emotional element with Magneto and Rogue to be the reason why he doesn't trust him. He doesn't trust him because he's Magneto. He's been the enemy of the X-Men for so long. Why would you trust him just out of nowhere? Obviously, we find out Rogue has had a secret interaction with him years ago before joining the X-Men, so we can understand why she is a lot more welcoming. Same with like Xavier, same with others. We can understand their point of view. Gambit doesn't allow how he feels about Magneto and Rogue get in the way of how he feels about Magneto to begin with. He doesn't trust him because he's been the enemy of the X-Men, and all of a sudden now he's supposed to be leading them because Xavier went off into space and left it in his will. It's good to see that he's able to at least temper his emotions enough that he is still able to make good judgment calls. Now again, this is all my perspective, this is from what I'm watching. And then when we see them go to Genosha, and the poor lad generally feels like the third guy in his own relationship. And again, I know I said that they never specifically said they were a couple, never specifically said they were in a relationship. And let's be fair, while it was never specifically said that they were a couple, it was heavily implied. It was no secret how much Gambit loved Rogue. So that's why when Kurt sees Gambit and he sees the hurt in his eyes, because like it's Kurt. Kurt is a very spiritual guy. He's very connected with his emotions. So he's able to look at another wounded soul. He can tell something's up. He doesn't know the full details. How could he? He wasn't anywhere near the situation when it happened. But he's aware. He's aware something's going on. even if Gambit is pushing her away. Again, Gambit has so much time to bury Rogue if he didn't love her. To be like, oh, she's a cheating ex, she's a whatever. He doesn't, because he loves her. And he's waiting for her to come to him, to feel comfortable enough to come to him and explain the situation. It's disappointing, and again, I don't look at any negative way on Rogue's part. It is disappointing that she only decides to come to him after Magneto has made the offer that he'll rule Genosha only if Rogue rules it with him. That to me was the emotional manipulation that Magneto was pulling on, because one, he's using her feelings for him to get what he wants, obviously, but also he's using political leverage. He is saying, I will not take over this country, I will not lead these people into the promised land unless you join me and you proclaim yourself to be my woman. It's very toxic. It's a very toxic thing to do, to say, I will not do this job unless I get what I want, i.e. this woman to be my bride, or to be my queen, or whatever. Finally, Rogue comes to Gambit and says what goes on. Now, mind you, Gambit's not a fool. Gambit's got eyes. He's able to see him. He is very right to be angry, and he's very right to be frustrated. But you'll notice in the way he speaks, and you'll notice in the way he talks to her, he never actively attacks her. He never calls her any sort of name. He is visibly hurt. He even tries to justify a lot of things, like, I knew we couldn't be X or Y, but I was willing to play this role for you because I love you. And Rogue brings up very valid reasons why they can't get together. I can't touch you, Remy. That is one of the most important lines in that episode, because it's the most valid reason that she has for not wanting to be with Magneto instead of Gambit. Gambit would have the life force sucked out of him, he'd lose his powers, while Magneto has a magnetic field that seems to neutralize hers, which makes her feel human, which is what she wants. She wants human touch. I think she'd give up all her power just to be able to physically hold somebody without hurting them. And what does Gambit do when all of this is brought to the table? He accepts it, and he says, yeah, it's going to take some time, but I will be your friend. And he lets her go. He doesn't try and guilt trip her. He doesn't try and bring up past histories, past favors. Oh, well, I did this for you, I risked my life for you, and you did this to me, all this other bollocks. He's very much, I accept your decision. Mind you, this is the exact opposite of what Magneto was doing. Magneto said, well, I'm not going to pull up my end of the bargain, I'm not going to rule Genosha, which is what the mutant population needed, unless he got Rogue, unless he got what he wanted, which was, again, a very manipulative tactic. So then you get to the gala, everyone's dancing, Rogue comes out, and she starts dancing with Magneto. Obviously, again, Gambit is given two choices. He can either throw a fit, he can be like one of those guys who gets drunk in the sword and he ends up getting kicked out. He doesn't. He takes option number two. While still visibly angry and still visibly hurt, he leaves. He walks away. He doesn't cause a scene. Now, granted, obviously, Madeline Pryor's there. She obviously sees how hurt he is. She's in a similar situation where, she's having a secret affair with Scott, while Scott is supposed to be reconnecting with Jean. So they kind of have a similar relationship, a similar kind of vibe. The only difference is Gambit is walking away. Gambit is just leaving. He's like, I'm not going to cause a scene, I'm not going to ruin the vibe. I'm also not going to do anything that's going to hurt Rogue or make Rogue look bad. He needs to walk away because obviously he recognizes he is not in a good mental headspace to deal with this scenario. So he leaves. Obviously, after dancing around, after a kiss, Rogue says, no, I realize now this is not what I want. That Gambit is the man for me. I don't know if it's necessarily down to the fact that she realized that actually there is a lot of gaslighting going on here. This is a lot of manipulation or whatever. But she realizes the person that she truly loves is the one who gave her up. The one who was like, I love you so much that this is what you need to do. This is what you feel you have to do. I will walk away. And not having ill will, have no hatred in his body for her. Because he loves her. And that, to me, is what all of us lads should look to do when it comes to ending of a relationship, whether it be a friendship, romantic, sexual, whatever. Acknowledge that it's over. Just because you don't want it to be over doesn't mean you have any say. If one person wants to leave, the relationship has fallen apart, you're done. There's no point trying to hold on. There's no point trying to grasp on and trying to keep things going. Gambit understood that very well. He walked away. Now granted, what's even more important, when everything went to shit, Genosha, he stepped up. He didn't allow, again, in his head, Rogue had still chosen Magneto. Didn't abandon her. Didn't try and kill Magneto at the first given chance. When everything's going wrong, we see enough stories where a spurned lover will do that to another, like their lover's lover, like a point of great stress, of a travesty. It happens. It's a trope. He doesn't. He actively tries to help. He actively tries to get involved. Not just because it's literal genocide going on, but also the fact that he is still the good man he was before the relationship. He still wants to be the good man after it. He sacrifices his life, not for Genosha, but for Rogue. That's who he cares about above all else. Because he loved her unconditionally. Even when he felt like that love was not being reciprocated. Even when, while they may never have been a committed couple, he felt that she was cheating on him. He still loved her. Still loved her enough to allow her the time to come to him to explain the situation. Was very mature in the way he talked about his anger, talked about how he felt. Because let's be fair, how many of us who have been cheated on, who felt that betrayed, have had that moment to be able to just go, I played your swamp rat, I did all this. And then when she comes back and go, I played your share, I played whatever. He does not allow his anger, he does not allow the pain inside him to take over. Gambit is a good man in a world full of Andrew Tates. Be a Remy. Honestly, I've been told I should cosplay Gambit. I've been kind of putting it off because I was like, he's fine. But after watching X-Men 97 and after watching him having his literal heart broken, he's an inspiration now of just how to deal with heartache, how to deal with your emotions. He was absolutely right to walk away. And he was absolutely right to be angry and to be frustrated. But the thing that pushed him over the edge was that regardless of how his anger was, regardless how angry he was, he still didn't want to hurt Rogue. He still didn't want to take out his anger on Magneto and everyone else for how he felt. He loved the X-Men and he loved Rogue too much to let himself fall down that rabbit hole. And it's a rabbit hole we've all fallen down with our anger, with whatever. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I haven't been that way. I absolutely have. So it's just refreshing. It's nice. And I think genuinely more of us should strive to be like Remy LeBeau. It's his name. Gambit is his name. Remember it. And I think we can all learn from how Gambit reacts and how Gambit is portrayed in this show. Don't get me wrong, Gambit has never been a white and white babyface. He's been a bad guy in the past. But the fact that he tries and the fact that he goes out of his way to try and make things better is the definition of why he's a hero and why he deserves all that he wants. Honest to God. I cannot wait to see what happens in season 2. I can't wait to see the idea of him, big spoiler warning, because it happens in the comics, he becomes a horseman death. And how he handles that, how he handles seeing Rogue. Will some of the anger that he didn't betray after getting basically kicked to the curb, will he be better? I don't know. I know in past relationships, I have been one to beg, borrow, trying to hold on too tight to keep a relationship going that really should have just ended. I've also been one to get angry, to snap, to be all that stuff. And like, while I've gotten better at that, I've gotten better at not snapping or being angry or being whatever when a relationship falls apart, I do still have the habit of holding on when it really should have just let it go. So I definitely will be thinking of Gambit and thinking how he handled it. And maybe one day, hopefully not, hopefully the next one actually works out. Hopefully I'll be in the same situation if that happens and be like, you know what, I love you, I respect your decision, and just let it go. X-Men 97 had no right to be that good, it really fucking didn't. But yeah, that's the point of the video I just want to talk about. Gambit is amazing. Gambit is a good-hearted human being and deserves the world, and is an inspiration. See ya.